Hello everyone, my name is David and together with Annalena we will present you our paper Projective Augmented Reality in a Museum, Development and Evaluation of an Interactive Application. In the middle of the 18th century, the German archaeologist Winkelmann said about ancient statues that they have a noble simplicity and quiet grandeur. He was talking about the paleness of the statues, but many statues in ancient times were brightly colored. If we have a look at this picture, we can see a kore, that's a statue of a Greek woman. The statue on the left side is the original one with traces of the original color. And in the middle, we can see a reconstruction that is giving us an idea how the statue might have looked like in ancient times. In our project, we don't want to augment statues with the probably original color. We want to offer visitors the possibility to color the exhibit the way he or she likes. Together with the Museum of Casts of Classical Statues, we placed a booth inside the museum and used a projector and a tablet marked with red to color the exhibit inside the booth. The exhibit was an ancient Greek stele. You can see that on the right side. The stele is more or less a gravestone. And we get some information on this gravestone about the man who was buried next to the stele. At first, we can find the name of the man. He was called Xantippos. And we also know that he was a shoemaker because he has a shoemaker's tool in his hand. So now we want to bring these informations to the visitor, to the user, but we will also give the visitor the opportunity to color the ancient stele. So we have two modes, and I will show you at first the creativity mode. The creativity mode, as I said, is for coloring the stele. You can see here an animation that was a test run at our university. We used a 3D printed version of the stele. And on the right side, you see the information that was displayed on the tablet. There's a picture on the stele, and you can color the stele using your finger. You can use a freehand mode, but you can also select parts, and then the part will be colored in the color you choose. The information mode shows the visitor information about the stele, so he can click on the information buttons on the right side, then you get information about the object or the part you have selected, and the selected object will be highlighted via the projector on the stele. So as I said, you can click on the name or on the shoemaker's tool, then you get the information via text, and the shoemaker's tool will be highlighted on top of the stele via the projector. How does our system work? We use a tablet and a wireless connection to a computer. For enabling this connection, we are using UbiInteract. That's a tool that was developed at our chair. And then the information is projected on top of the stele. You can see here our Christmas version. I think that's suitable because we have already the beginning of December. But many other versions were created by our visitors. You can see these versions here in the animation on the left side. But I will also show you on this slide some improvements we did. For example, we improved the usability. The second picture on the left shows at first our Bavarian version, but also buttons at the bottom to switch between the information and the creativity mode. And the two pictures on the right side are representing changes in the UI. So we changed the design of the buttons. And now Annalena will present you the results of our study.
Hi, my name is Annalena, and I will now tell you a bit about the statistical evaluation of our application. So we conducted 2 user studies, one on the prototype and another focused more in-depth on knowledge transfer, where we compared our application to the exhibition method traditionally used in the museum. The design of the questions was inspired by standardized questionnaires. However, we in particular decided to shorten the number of questions just to increase accessibility and reach a wider variety of participants. So let's start with the first one, which basically served as a proof of concept for us. Our main purpose here was to analyze if the application is enriching to the visitor's experience. We reached 42 participants, and besides asking some general demographic questions, we asked questions in the 3 categories: integration into the exhibition, usability, and knowledge transfer. So in the category of knowledge transfer, we also asked 3 questions about the historical background of the tombstone. The age distribution was a bit bimodal, as you can see here, and we had slightly more female than male participants, although the gender distribution is still quite even. Overall, the application was received quite positively. 74% considered it as an enrichment to the exhibition, and 83% stated that they would like to use a similar Projective AR application again. When asked about which aspect of the application visitors found most intriguing, most would answer with the technical aspect and least with the informative aspect. Even though for this question it was possible to select multiple answers. So in general, the knowledge aspect seemed a bit left out. For example, although 62% stated that the application would increase their motivation to learn something about the exhibit, 40% of the participants could not answer any of the historical questions. Also, when averaging across the respective categories, the score for the knowledge category was by far the lowest, as you can see here, and we thus decided to center the further development of the prototype around the learning aspect. Afterwards, we conducted a second study focused on knowledge transfer. So for this second study, we split our participants into 2 groups. One group would use the application to interact with the exhibit, and the other would get the same information that was presented in the app, but as a text-based printout version, which is actually the method traditionally used in the museum to convey information about their exhibits. Additionally, we measured the prior knowledge in Greek history at the beginning, and after interacting with the tombstone, either by using the app or reading the text, we measured the knowledge participants gained about the exhibit. So for both types of knowledge, we used 6 free text questions to measure them. This way, we try to find out if our application is better at transferring knowledge just by providing a more interactive and creative way of learning about the exhibit than simply reading a text. Sadly, we had to stop testing due to the COVID-19 restrictions and to not unnecessarily endanger in particularly any older participants. Thus, the number of participants could be higher and the population could be a bit older, but in total we reached 21 participants, 11 of which used the application and 10 reading the information text. Again, we have a bit more female than male participants, this time a little less even. Okay, when we now look at the results from just the group using the application, we can see an improvement over the prototype. So this time most participants gained at least a basic understanding about the historical background of the tombstone. What we did here is we discretized the number of correctly answered questions into 4 levels. For example, basic means that the participant could answer 1 to 2 questions correctly, or expert means that 5 to 6 correct answers were given. Okay, looking at the results from both groups now, we can see that the number of participants reaching a higher level of knowledge about the exhibit is increasingly from the group using our application, which is represented by the red color here. So for the last column, one way to interpret this result here is that if you are already interested in something, the method of how the knowledge about this is conveyed is mattering less. On the other hand, we only have 2 participants in this group, so this result here might not reflect reality. Now, representing the data as a box plot shows that both the mean and the median of the group using the application is higher than of the group reading the text. The data is not normally distributed, so instead of using a standard t-test, we applied a non-parametric alternative of the t-test, the Kruskal-Wallis test. Sadly, the resulting p-value of 7.8% is quite low, but not statistically significant, using a 5% threshold. However, visually, the effect of our application on learning is noticeable. Also, computing a standard effect size suggests a medium effect, and applying the bootstrap method results in a statistically significant p-value of 4.5%. We also used 2 non-parametric regression methods to further explore our data. I shortly want to present the results of one of them. So fitting a generalized additive model to our data shows that the trend line representing the app users is always above the line representing the group reading the information text. However, the confidence intervals are overlapping. So both lines have a similar progression, and the difference between the groups remains the same, independent of the prior knowledge, and therefore we can neglect the influence of the prior knowledge on the group difference. So in conclusion, we accept our hypothesis that our application has a positive impact on learning. However, it would be best to collect more data on this. It would also be interesting to measure, for example, the impact of how much time visitors are spending with the exhibit, depending on whether they are provided with the application or the information text. And of course, on the technical side of this project, there is still much we could do, like upgrading our setup to use multiple projectors and allowing us to colorize 3D statues. So thank you for listening, and we're looking forward to the discussion now.